This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Ursery and PJ Zuko. Listen, we're doing things a little bit different today. Internet, not really our best friend right now, but it is what it is. We're going to get it done today. We got a lot to dive into. We got a lot of draft talk to dive into here on ESPN Radio because, guys, when I think back on the best units in college football over the last, I don't know, say decade, right? Obviously, 2019 LSU's offense stands out, right? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all those guys, right? You have so many first-round picks that came off of that unit. Multiple Alabama defenses, multiple Alabama offenses that we can talk about, right? And then that Clemson defensive line where you have two first-round picks off that defensive line with Clinton Farrell and those guys right there. So just so many outstanding units. I don't know that we're far enough removed yet from the season. We're just over 4 weeks removed from Georgia winning the national championship. I don't know if we're far away enough yet to really start ranking Georgia up there with those units. And I'm sure we will, but we have to wait and see what the fallout is, how many eventual first, second round picks come off of that unit. But as we get closer and closer to the draft, it's seeming like multiple Georgia defenders are going to end up there in the first round. But I'm scrolling back here. Cam, PJ, can you guys tell me who the last defensive lineman for Georgia was to be taken in the first round?
Gino Atkins.
In the first round.
Defensive lineman. No, was Leonard Floyd first or second round?
Well, even
Let
then,
me see.
would he
What
be
draft? I think, and you consider him kind of an outside linebacker.
right? That's
Yeah.
what the guys that keep coming to mind for me are all linebacker, outside linebacker. Gino Atkins is really the only one that rings a bell. I know, and this was one of the not
Yeah, Gino Atkins was a fourth round pick.
man,
Oh, wow.
and he's really he's really made good use of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, with his career. There was a guy who had really good size. I think 6 or 7 years ago. That was kind of highly touted in college, but I don't think he went in the first round. I can't remember his name, to be honest with you, so probably
I
not.
can't think. Jarvis Jones was a linebacker.
Right. He
Right.
was
See,
a
that's
first
the
round
thing.
pick. He was
Yeah,
17th overall, but more of a stand up outside linebacker.
yeah.
Right.
And so many good outside linebackers and middle linebackers, but like you said, that stout defensive lineman, especially one that is that highly touted coming out of college, has kind of been elusive for Georgia.
Yeah.
I
So,
think.
by my count, and this is just going through, I'm strictly going off of hand in the dirt defensive lineman. By my count, Georgia has not had a defensive lineman drafted in the first round since David Pollock in 2005.
Look at that.
Well, that would change. It's going to change this year.
Right,
But
that's
that's a
going to get
long point.
multiplied by just let's see how many you can pick because and what's funny is you could have another one who transferred to another school who we picked in the first round in Jermaine Johnson, but he's more of that stand up outside linebacker kind of guy. But that being said, you got to think Jordan Davis is a first round pick. Travon Walker, I think, has earned himself as a first round pick as well. Devonta Wyatt, even though he didn't get a chance to play in the Senior Bowl because of an injury, he had that week leading up to the practices where he did really show out and dominated a bunch of offensive linemen who have really good draft grades. So I think Georgia will have two defensive linemen drafted in the first round, any of those three guys, but I think it could be upwards of three. But what's cool about that is after this year, I think Jalen Carter is a first round pick as well. So from this 2021 Georgia defensive line, I think potentially you could have four first round picks on that defensive line, which again, it takes a little while to kind of separate, get some years between you. I certainly think that puts that defense up there in terms of best ever. You can put it with a lot of we talk about 2001 Miami in terms of these like the great draft teams, right? If you have Nakobe Dean get drafted off this team in the first round potentially, right? You have a couple other linebackers. Channing Tindall really showed out at the Senior Bowl, who gets drafted off this team really early. In terms of draft production, I mean, Keely Ringo was a freshman this past year. In terms of draft production, this could be one of the best defenses we've seen in a long, long time.
Ooh, I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, you could see possibly this entire defense, including the freshmen when they're draft eligible, go like first, second round. I mean, every single person on this team. It's a deep team. They were kind of like a mix of old and young. I mean, you had some seniors, some juniors, and then you had some freshmen that flashed. But as far as that defensive line, I could see Davis and Walker and possibly Wyatt all three get picked in probably the top 25 in my opinion, just because this is a defense laden draft. So it's a special Georgia defense. It is.
I mean,
And-
PJ, I was going to say, we look
Yeah.
back on that Clemson defense that dominated Alabama in the national championship, and you had the guys that got drafted off of that. I mean, when it's all said and done, do you think it's fair to say that this defense had more talent on it in terms of draftable guys?
All in all, probably. But all in all, most likely, because I mean, it's kind of like where the focus is, right? And that, like you said, massive defensive lineman coming out for Georgia this year, and with Jalen Carter possibly next year there as well. But I know with the focus of that Clemson team was those senior defensive linemen that all came back with the intention of winning the national championship. So it's kind of, I mean, I think right there's kind of a wash. And then you go to linebacker in the secondary, and with the guys that Georgia has in that linebacking core, with the young guys they have in the secondary and what they could progress into the future and where they could get drafted, very well could be. I wouldn't I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. And I don't know if you guys are thinking about this. Maybe if this is me not being a prisoner of the moment enough, I guess. But that just makes me think of what could be for Georgia even more in the future, right? Because what's one of the first things that recruits that high school guys look for and talk about? Of course, it's guys that want to develop you and, you know, a great school, great program, all that good stuff, winning, all that good stuff. But also, can you get me to the league? Can you get me to the next level, especially on that defensive side of the ball? And when Kirby Smart can not only show a national championship, but also all the production that these guys have, and possibly all of them getting drafted at some point and very highly at some point. I mean, that's just then you're just developing and going even more and more into an embarrassment of riches, right?
Okay, so here's what Georgia's going up against if we're comparing them to that 2018 Clemson national championship team. I was wrong. 3 first-round picks. 3 first-round picks. I don't know why I thought Christian Wilkins was a second-round pick, but he was the 13th overall pick. So you had 3 first-round picks off the defensive line. Clinton Farrell, Christian Wilkins, and Dexter Lawrence all go in the first round. Trayvon Mullen, a corner, goes in the second round at the 40th pick. In the fourth round, Austin Bryant goes. So you had 4 defensive linemen go in one draft. And then the very next year, some more guys off that defense. You have 2 first-round picks in Isaiah Simmons and A.J. Terrell. And then you have Tanner Muse going in the third round. So all in all, what, 7 picks off that defense in 2 years?
Yeah.
That's hard to compete with right there.
Yeah, that Clemson I'll probably give them the edge only because they beat. I mean, both teams beat Alabama. Let me put that nip that
But
in
they
the
beat
bud.
the hell out of Alabama.
Yeah, but exactly what Christian said. They beat Alabama pretty bad. That game was over like in the second, third quarter, and that was I would say a more talented Alabama team. They were undefeated, and they had all the receivers you see right now, Ruggs and Judy and Devontae Smith, and they just shut them out. You know, so I would probably roll with Clemson just by a hair, but that doesn't
We
mean
got
this
we
Georgia
got we got to
defense.
wait and see. We got to wait and see
Yeah,
because, like I said,
Yeah.
just it depends on what happens. It depends on what teams are looking for, right? Jordan Reed just did a mock draft, and he has 2 Georgia defensive linemen going. He has Jordan Davis and Trevon Walker both going in the first round, and then in the second round, he has, which is just the perfect pick for them. He has Devonta Wyatt going to the Ravens because that just seems like a Ravens pick, right? Second round pick a defensive lineman who has a first round grade and just continue to be filthy on defense like you have been forever. So. But he also has DeMarvin Lill going in the 40s, who a lot of teams have had him going as high, or a lot of people in their drafts have had him going as high as 10. So we're really just going to have to wait and see. But all right, if I said it over and under 3, 3 Georgia defenders in the first round, are you going over under, or is that right on the line?
I'll go right on the line. I don't think it goes over. I'll go right on the line.
Give me the over. Why not? And I do like what you said too about Clemson. Like, they have the blessing of time right now. Like, we can look back and see results and see those 7 guys who have been drafted. But I mean, with Georgia, with this unit specifically, and what they could be, and what the younger guys could be moving forward, I think probably meet that number 7 or go over as well. But you're talking about first round guys coming off this defense. It'll be it's either 3 or 4. I think it's either 3 or 4. I think I'll be gracious and optimistic and go with the over.
Think somebody takes a shot on George Pickens?
In the first round? Man, no. I don't think so. Only because you have like Olave, Wilson, Burks, and those 2 guys from Bama. I think all 5 of those guys go ahead of Pickens, not because they're better, it's just they've seen more body of work this year.
Yeah, he has George Pickens going 59th to who? The Green Bay Packers, which would be like their first time drafting a receiver threat for Aaron Rodgers in a long, long time. He also has, sorry, I lost it in my scrolling here. Yeah, Lewis Cine going to the Saints at 49. So potentially that would be what, 5 Georgia defenders in the first 2 rounds of the draft. Still just crazy production. And like I said, you could potentially triple the amount of first round picks you've had on the defensive line since 2005 in one draft. So all these recruiting classes starting to stack up here for Kirby Smart. And I know you lose. We're going to talk about this here in a little bit. You lose Jamil Adai to Miami on kind of a lateral move for him. He was your defensive back coach, goes to Miami as a defensive back coach. We're going to talk about why maybe it's not quite as big of a deal as a lot of Georgia fans are making it out to be. It's a win for Miami. The Duke can recruit his tail off. I think he's the number 2 recruiter in terms of defensive backs in the country this past year. So we'll dive into that, but maybe just take a deep breath. If you're a Georgia fan, we'll talk about the why as to why Jamil Adai decided to head to Miami. I mean, listen, you just sold Brian McClendon from them in a very lateral move. Well, they came in and took your defensive backs coach from you. So it's, just kind of swapping coaches there. So we're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We'll dive into that. Going to talk some Super Bowl as well. This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Ursher. Guys, Super Bowl coming up this Sunday. Obviously, all the talk has been about the quarterbacks, right? You got Matt Stafford after just serving his time like Jon Snow at the Northern Wall in Detroit, getting to come down to beautiful, sunny Los Angeles. First year he's there. My man's making it to the Super Bowl. And then you have Joe Burrow. He is building his own kind of mythical legacy as well. He's the up-and-comer, the guy who just doesn't lose, wins a national championship with LSU, comes into the league, and then in just 2 short years took the Cincinnati Bengals. I know we're talking about Joe Burrow in his second year going to the Super Bowl, but the fact that Joe Burrow took the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl. So all the talk right now is swirling around the quarterbacks, and deservedly so. The two guys have great stories. My question to you is this. When we get to Super Bowl Sunday, because there's always this one guy, when we get to Super Bowl Sunday, who's going to be the hero that we didn't expect? The guy that we're talking about, we were like, where the hell did this guy come from? The David Tyree of this Super Bowl. Who are we going to be talking about on Monday when we're all hungover from wings and too much beer, and this game shouldn't be played on a Sunday, but it is? When we're forced to come to work and talk about this the next day, who are we going to be like, wow, I did not see that coming?
I'll go first.
Not really.
I'll go first then. I have two guys, but one can only make like a significant impact in my opinion. I'll go Van Jefferson. Slot wide receiver for the Rams. I feel as if Cincinnati are game playing well enough not to lock down Cooper Kupp or Odell, but to kind of contain them, and you need a third guy to kind of like come out there and make something happen. Higbee, their tight end, he's nicked up for this game, so I don't know how much he'll be able to play. So there has to be another guy that gets over Van Jefferson, and my counter to that would probably be Cam Akers on the offensive side as well. He's come back from an Achilles injury, and he's looked well since he's been back in the playoffs. And I think he might have a chance to, run the ball on that Bengals defensive line, which is, it's above average. And I think they might be able to take advantage of that. So I say those two on the offensive side.
That's really good. And my thought kind of automatically went to the running game for the Rams because so much has been focused. Like, I'm not going to give away my pick, but so much has been focused on.
But I ask you to.
Right now? No.
For the player? You're talking about for the game. All right.
Has been focused on about the quarterbacks, the passing games, and why shouldn't they be, right? I mean, they've both been extremely good throughout the year. You have a lot of star players when it comes to the wide receivers and everything like that too. But really, I think with big games like this, it comes down to not always, but one of the biggest factors is controlling the ball and having big plays where you, like you said, wouldn't normally maybe expect it. And Cam Akers would be one for sure. How about Sony Michel as well? He's had some moments for the Rams, and obviously when he was in New England, he was kind of in that 5-stack for the New England's running backs. That
he was the only player to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl win against the Rams.
Exactly. So right. So like he has come up with big plays for Super Bowl winning teams, for late charging teams before, and to be kind of the leader of that guy. Could he? I'm not gonna go there. But could he be the guy that is making those 10, 12-yard runs late in the game, or catching the ball out the backfield, getting those first downs when you need to soak time or something like that? So I think he could possibly be one of these guys that, it's either that. It's kind of three things popped into my mind, right? It's either that, it's an offensive lineman for the Bengals, right? Just one of them, right? They decide to block somebody, or it could be a defensive player for the Bengals that, I'm going to be honest, I don't know a ton of really good, extremely good defensive players for the Bengals, right?
Come on, Hawkinson's good.
I don't think they're just built on. I don't know. So like, obviously they have some good guys over there, but there's always one of those guys, especially defensively, that for some reason just blows up in the Super Bowl, right? And if the Bengals are going to win this game, they're going to have a pretty, I think, big presence on the defensive side of the ball. So it could be one of them.
I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you the boring one first. I think Leonard Floyd potentially, just because of how focused you're going to have to be on the other guys. I mean, Von Miller and Aaron Donald, how much they're going to take up. I could see him having like a 3 or 4 sack game and winning the Super Bowl MVP after the game, but really it'd be more of a I don't want to throw any specific players under the bus, but the Atlanta Falcons had a player that led the league in sacks one year. More of those kind of sacks than the actual like impact beating your man sacks. But I could see at the end, we're like, okay, well, I mean, he had 3 or 4 sacks, probably deserved to win Super Bowl MVP there. But, and I'm just going to ask you guys this, and you can veto me. Am I allowed to have a kicker as the guy to watch in a game?
No, you can.
What? Why not? Yeah, I mean, Adam Vinatieri. Look at what he did for the Patriots in the 2000s.
It's interesting that you bring up Adam Vinatieri because there's a guy who is on pace to break his postseason record of most field goals made. Adam Vinatieri has the record right now, going 14 for 14 on field goals in one single postseason. Evan McPherson right now is 12 for 12, including 2 game-winning field goals in his first ever postseason.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, you're playing that Rams defense. Once you get across the 50 into the 40s, if he can hit a couple of 50-yarders, then if they get a cheapie, he hits a 30-yarder. If he can keep them in the game by doing that, listen, I don't know that a kicker's ever been a Super Bowl MVP, but just maybe Evan McPherson, who has built this legacy for himself because he looked at the backup quarterback. I forget his name now for the Bengals, but he looked at the backup quarterback prior to going out and beating Brandon Allen, prior to going out and beating the Titans, and said, hey, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship. Did he actually say it? I don't know. I don't think they mic up kickers, but he got a lot of reports saying he did. He's already kind of building his legacy this postseason. He has the bottle cap video. Have you seen this when he was the kicker at Florida? Had the Gatorade bottle taped up on the rail with the top on it and was down below on the field, kicked the ball up, hit the bottle, and just spun the top off, leaving the bottle where it was. So, I mean, the dude is sniper accurate with his kicking. But my question is, am I allowed to have a kicker as my player to watch in a Super Bowl?
Yeah, you can, but it sounds like you may have jinxed him a little bit. You might have jinxed him with the 12. I don't know. We'll have to see. Only time will tell now.
I also have to get PJ's opinion on this because, Cam, you might be too young. I don't know. Or I just don't know that you care enough or nerdy enough about this as we are. PJ, who has the better uniform in this game?
Oh, okay. I think it's, even though I will say like the Rams are growing on me a little bit, I still can't get over the numbers. Like I don't know what the fascination is with teams bringing out these new like thin, weird looking numbers. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals. I think the rework they did this year has been incredible. They just kind of simplified what they already had, but that's what they needed to do, and it looks clean. And I can't wait to see like when you get a little bit more relaxed rules, especially with the helmets, with the NFL here soon. I can't wait to see what they do with those sets. But I'll say I'll go with the Bengals. I think it's just clean. If we're talking about one of the Rams uniforms, like if they came out with their traditional throwbacks, that'd be super clean. I think their like bone uniforms are pretty cool, but there's certain aspects that I really can't.
You like the dirty white uniforms?
It's weird, right? But I don't know why. But I think it just makes the yellow and the blue pop a little bit more. I don't know. But overall, I'll go with the Bengals. And to your point with the kickers as well. Sorry to come back to this, but in a year like this,
never apologize for going back to the kickers.
Right? It seems like every week we had like 4 or 5 games that were hugely affected by missed field goals. It was every single week. And now we have 2 of the best teams with field goal kickers, and of course one of the best field goal kickers in the league in his first year with McPherson. So I mean, there's no, like you say, you're even asking if he can be in the conversation, right? I mean, I think just that alone puts him in the conversation, especially too when you go through the playoffs. Not only the game-winning kicks, but I mean, there's so many possessions that they have that would have come up empty if you don't have a guy like that, or even if you miss one, the game's over. Like because every playoff game's been decided by one possession. So Heck yeah, kickers are insanely important, and he's shown that even more this year.
So in this matchup, it looks like we're going to get the all white from the Rams going up against the red helmets, black tops, white pants for the Bengals.
Why? Why is
See,
the Rams? Why is
I'm
the
with
Rams
Cam.
doing that?
I
It's a
think the
whole
Rams
game.
best, but I think their best uniforms. Well, we've seen a lot of teams starting to transition to wearing white at home. It used to only be the Cowboys, but since like Tom Brady came to the Buccaneers and they switched up, or I guess reverted their uniforms back to what they used to be, they wear white at home a lot. The Chargers will wear white at home a lot, which I think is smart. Because if you're in a sunny city like that, do you really want to be wearing the dark uniforms? You want to give yourself any advantage you can. And really, football is the only sport where a majority of the teams wear the dark uniforms at home, right? Basketball teams wear the white uniforms at home. Baseball teams wear the white uniforms at home. Soccer teams wear the white uniforms at home. But that being said, I don't actually know who technically the home team is in this game. I know the Rams are playing in
That's
their
what I was
home
gonna say,
stadium.
No, the Rams are. They're the higher seed, so it
Okay,
should
well,
be the Rams.
well, either way, they're wearing their all
No,
white,
you're
but I
yeah.
still think that's a mistake. I think they should have worn the blue helmet, white top, yellow pants because that's like far and away their best look. It's kind of the classic Dickerson look back when they were in Los Angeles before. Love that look. The Bengals is saucy. Like that's a clean uniform. But I I think we're looking at uniform matchup. I gotta go Bengals here. Like I gotta give them the nod.
I mean, I agree. Like if it was like greatest show on turf Rams jerseys, I
Oh,
would go that.
you like the gold and
Yes.
dark blue?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Man, I
think
don't
some of
know.
those are like top 5 best jerseys in the NFL. But I mean, they got they got the regular Deglers on now, the kind of the new school type of jersey. So I pick Cincinnati. I
Yo,
like
what
the
is on their
all white.
helmet? Because
I like the all white Cincinnati. I
it's
do.
not a ram horn.
Huh?
What's on the Rams helmet? Because it's not a Rams horn.
And honestly, I'm trying to figure out what it is too.
Like it
Like,
looks more like the Chargers than anything, right?
yeah,
I
it
don't
does.
know who did their like logos and things like that, but that they need to change them. Like even especially that both their logos look like they like someone went on paint and just kind of
I think you're locked in for
windows.
uniforms for 4 years in the NFL.
Yeah, something like that.
Dang.
Yeah, again, like the uniforms, I don't think are terribly bad. You change the numbers and you change the logos to me, and I think you're okay. But even then, like I think it's funny. I kind of think the yellow pants are like my third option. Like I don't really mind
What?
the all white. I think the all white's clean. I really like. I don't know. I have a thing with maybe it's because of the teams that I watch or whatever. But I really like to have like the helmet and the pants the same color, and then maybe have a different color for the jersey. So like if the Bengals were coming out, even though I do like them more for right now, if the Bengals were coming out with like the orange helmets, the black jerseys, and then the orange pants, that'd
Do
be
they have orange
that'd be
pants?
fire.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they should.
I think that because
Same thing
I know
like
they
I
have
don't know.
black pants.
Yeah, but they have the
right.
orange jersey. I think that's what I'm thinking. I know they
Maybe.
have the
I
orange
think a
jersey.
really good like I think the Rams when they come out with like the white and the blue pants and the blue helmets pretty good too.
Them gold pants, man. I
But
need those. The gold pants. I need them, man. That's what I like about the Rams. The new color uniforms, the yellow and the bright blue or kind of like dark blue. Nah, I can't do that. I
Yeah,
don't know
I
why.
guess technically when they did the uniform release, they have orange pants there, PJ. So
that
you
looked
are
great. I
you are
know you have all the
technically
jokes,
correct.
yeah, they're looking like Halloween, whatever, but I don't care.
Yeah,
Like you're talking about a tiger, right? You're thinking or Bengal,
they need to put
whatever.
on the all whites. The all whites look clean
I mean,
when they
those
put
are
that on.
incredible. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
you're right about that.
it looks
Well,
clean.
they can't because the
Because the
Rams are
Rams are
already
going
doing
all
that.
white, apparently. Or
Sadly,
like do the complete opposite, right? Rams are going all white. Go with the all black, man. All black Bengals uniforms with the orange
that's
stripes on
nice.
it. Woo!
That's
That's
fair.
nice.
That
That's
looks
fair.
good.
All right,
That
so
is
we got that conversation out
good.
of the way because it's a very important conversation. We're going to do prop bets a little bit later in the week as well. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back talk some college football right here on Second Down. After just one season in Athens, Georgia defensive back coach Jamil Adai has departed for the same job on Mario Cristobal's staff at the University of Miami. A lot of people looking at this as a lateral move, and if we're being literal, it is. He took a job and won a national championship in Georgia, and then took the same job at a program that is entering its first year with a new head coach there in Miami with Mario Cristobal. So an interesting development. A lot of Miami fans celebrating, as they should. Jamil Adai, go look at Georgia's defensive backs that they brought into this class. The job he did in just 1 year for Georgia is phenomenal. So if you're Miami, you should be extremely happy about this. And so if you're Georgia, you have to be upset about this, right? Like, it makes sense. It's got to hurt. You lose a guy to a team that is barely relevant at the moment. It's rebuilding under a new head coach. I think you got to take a big step back right there if you're a Georgia fan and think about who Jamil Adai was having to work for the better part of the past year. And I've seen some other Georgia beat writers point this out. I was actually texting with Brooks Austin about it yesterday. PJ, you work pretty closely with Kevin Thomas, right?
Right.
Right. And
Mhm.
his main job is kind of keeping the station like up and running, right? Like that's what his main job is, making sure all our towers are working, making sure we're on the air, making sure we get paid. It's a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Kind of hands in everything, right? And just making sure everything's functioning as it should be.
Right. So if you were to be hired in the same position as Kevin to do the same things as Kevin, but yet Kevin still wanted to do the same things as you, that could get a little micromanagey, right? Like, there could be some headbutting going on. There could be some, hey, I think maybe this is a better way of doing this. But he's like, hey, I've been here longer. I've had great success at doing this. We're going to do it my way, right? That could get a little tiresome, right?
For sure.
Okay, so
I don't think that's ever really a great idea.
right. So imagine coaching defensive backs for Kirby Smart. And it's
Yeah.
probably the same thing that a lot of defensive backs coach have had to deal with, say, a Nick Saban, right? I don't
Really
think
good
there's
point.
many minds in college football that people would say, hey, this guy knows more about defensive backs than a Nick Saban or a Kirby Smart. So if you're talking about pressure, maybe like quarterbacks coach under Jimbo Fisher, right? Like that kind of pressure where it's like, this is what I do. I'm the head coach. This is the position group that I played, that I've coached, that I've had great success with. It could probably wear and tear on somebody a little bit, because if the defense does great, Kirby Smart coaching his butt off, one of the best defensive minds in college football. If the DBs are getting cooked all year, what's up with this defensive back coach, right? So it's none of the credit, all of the pressure for Jamil Adai. Add on to that, who did Georgia hire this past year as a defensive analyst and then eventually promoted to an on-field job? Will Bleepin Muschamp.
Yeah.
So Jamil Adai is going into work every day thinking like, man, there's probably a different way that we could run cover three, but Kirby and Will, they got their way of doing it. Those are two very loud individuals. I just it is what it is. So then old Mario Cristobal comes around, and it's Moneybag Mario right now, because that Miami team has had a pretty sizable injection, I guess, infusion of money into those coaching salaries. So he's like, listen, you live in Athens. Athens is a great town, one of the best college towns in America. We're in Miami, and that defensive back room's yours. All right, I'm more of a lineman kind of a guy. I just need somebody who can come in here, coach my defensive backs, coach them up, recruit them, and get them off to the next level. Let's win some football games. I could see why Jamil Adai would make this move.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that is one that I would have not thought of, just because you think of the title, right? You think of the job, and then you go with that. But you getting all that situationally, I don't know. Situationally as well, when you describe all that, I think you have to be careful with saying lateral move, because I guess title wise it is, but at the end of the day, if you do have more control and more freedom, and of course more money in the pocket as well, I mean, I think a lot of people, when you start breaking that down, don't look at it as a lateral move. You know what I mean? So, and he might be one of these guys too that, like, people, you look at the situation as well, and you go in, you win a national championship with Georgia. Of course, you fill up that defensive back room with a bunch of really solid players. that are looking forward. And some guys just like a new challenge as well. Like I know at the end of the day, Miami isn't in a great spot right now, but maybe you look at that as more of a challenge to build it into what Miami used to be. And some people look at those situations and say, yeah, man, I want to go do that. We did it at Georgia. Let's do it at Miami. So
I think that's a really good point. Cam, like, which one do you think you get more credit for? Having a good defensive secondary at Georgia or building a good defensive secondary at Miami?
Definitely at Miami. I think he made the move for two reasons. One, to prove like, hey, I went to Georgia. That's a defensive pipeline for the last decade and a half, if you want to say that, where we've brought out good defensive players. I want to prove myself and go to Miami and show everybody I can still do the same thing at a rebuilding, rebuilding school. And then two, it's just also he's paid his dues. He's done what he was supposed to do at Georgia. Now go get that big check from Miami. It's nothing wrong with, switching positions to go get a bigger check sometimes when you've already, accomplished things at, a certain place. So I can't necessarily get, too mad at him. Obviously, you're happy. You like to see anybody, make a significant upgrade and make some more money, but also get a chance to kind of, prove themselves even more and, how valuable they really are.
All right, flipping it over to Auburn. There's a couple things I want to talk about here, and I know we only have a few more minutes. Number one, how familiar are you guys with Twitter Spaces? Like, how much do you follow those?
Oh man, no, I know they exist, and I've seen. I guess I don't know why I even really see them pop up. I don't know. I'm not big on like social media, and all that, so I know they're there, and I know I for some reason seen like advertisements like, "Hey, blankety blank is in this Twitter space right now," and I'm like, okay, I don't. That doesn't interest me, but I don't know. So I know what they are.
Okay, so I love Twitter Spaces because they're basically sports talk radio on Twitter. It is a person host, like they just put a thought out there, right? They're like, Georgia's recruiting class, and they put that thought. That's how they title it. And then they host that space, and you can basically call in. You get on the Twitter space, and you hop in there, and you guys just talk about that. I've been listening to way too much Falcons talk, right? Because it's all these great writers who just get together and talk about the Falcons. So I listen to that all the time. But what I love about it is there's no sort of control on it. It's the wild, wild west. So you can say you are whatever you are. You can put whatever you want to up there. My favorite is there has been a sect of the Arkansas fan base that is just trolling the absolute hell out of Auburn fans on these Twitter spaces nightly. It is Brian Harsin fired. Who's next? And like it's just somebody hosted that, and then you click in there, and there's like 40 blue check marks in that Twitter space listening in, and then it turns out it's just an Arkansas fan making fun of Auburn fans. So I love that it's just another space for college football fans to be college football fans.
Yeah.
But my question to you is this: Auburn just finished up recruiting a top 20 class. This about a week ago, we were talking, PJ, about just can you come back from clearly wanting to be fired this bad, right? Like the boosters want you out this bad. Can Brian Harsin really come back for it? You had, and I think this has to be said clearly, you had former players, right? Two guys headed to the draft, a couple of guys who are now at another school who hosted an Instagram live and were just laying out how bad this past year was for you, right? So it's been a rough week for Brian Harsin. Didn't sign anybody on National Signing Day, right? Even like Georgia picked up a couple of guys, Alabama picked up a couple of guys. Just I know it's not December signing period, but it's still important to pick up some guys on signing day. Didn't pick up anybody. It's been a rough couple of weeks for Brian Harsin. Is there any way he can come back from this at this point?
I don't know. I don't know how. Like, I'm surprised we're talking about it this Tuesday, right? Because I mean, me and you were, like you said, we had that discussion last week, and we're talking about Friday. I was talking about possibly Sunday morning something,
Right?
And we're still having this conversation now. Obviously, like that they've said they're looking into it even more and whatever, even more into the last year and how this last season went with him personally, but. I think it'd be very, very difficult too. I'd be insanely surprised if he's able to get through this. And like you said, especially when you have so many boosters and whatnot, kind of pushing to get you out of there, and with everything coming out. So it would be, I think, not only that, but like you got to think of brand and image, right? Like, let's be real. If you're Auburn, you're the university right now. You got to think of brand and image and whatnot. You have all this stuff coming out, and if you do retain him, what does that do to your brand and image? Now, I know obviously it's, you have years upon years of Auburn fandom and tradition and everything like that. Like, it's not going to put, at the end of the day, it's not going to bring down Auburn or anything like that. But that could damage it
I
a
don't know.
little.
I don't
So
know because I think if Auburn's in a really dangerous territory, I think they're in the same spot the team they played in the 2013 national championship was in, right? You get rid of a coach who took you to that
yeah,
national
right,
championship game,
yeah,
and then you hire somebody, and then you very quickly fire that person, and all of a sudden you're one of the worst teams in the Power Five, right? Florida State did that, right? They hired Willie Taggart after Jimbo Fisher moves on. He's there for what, 21 games, and you fire him, and then all of a sudden your new coach has a worse record than he did through about the same amount of games,
yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Auburn's in trouble. They're in trouble. Yeah, if they finish last this year, they're in trouble because the SEC East, I mean SEC West. My apologies. It's only getting better. I mean, Arkansas is on
Sure.
the rise. Ole Miss and LSU. LSU is LSU. I don't care what anybody says. They'll be back. Everybody's on the
They're,
rise.
they're
It's
going to be
just
I'm just
dancing.
gonna say what I was gonna say. All right, Auburn has a very distinct chance of being Florida State. All right, I said it. I said it.
no. I
Sorry,
mean, it's true. That's
I said it.
actually true. Auburn might win. It could be a chance where Auburn goes like 4-8 or 5-7 next year. That's possible.
But I think this
Tell
is the problem, right? And kind of like what you were getting, like this is bad either way. I think, like, if
correct.
you retain him or not, I don't see a great decision or possibility coming out in the next 1 or 2 years for them to begin with.
Look,
With
Florida State and
everything.
Auburn are both basketball schools now. It is what it is. There used to be football schools. Now they're both basketball schools. Tell BJ I said it. I don't know if you can hear me back there, but tell him I said it. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap up today's second down next. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Ursery. Glad you guys hung out with us here on this Tuesday afternoon. Got a big show coming up next on 3 and Out. The guys are going to be joined by Ian Cummings from the Pro Football Network in a 7-round mock draft. And I think the first overall pick will make a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars fans happy. If it doesn't, it should. I think is the best way to put that out there. Also, Maije Sanders, former Camden County Wildcat, also a member of Cincinnati's defense that has had all of the success, becoming the first G5 school to ever make the college football playoff. He's going to join the guys at 3:30. Coming up at 4:20, Joe Hamilton, former Georgia Tech legend and member of 680 The Fan in Atlanta, going to hop on with the guys. And then, of course, we still have our Valentine's Day promo going on. You can call in 912-342-7184. All you have to do is call in, and you will be entered for a chance to win a trip to the Milan Day Spa and a 2-night stay at the Westin on Jekyll Island. Be the hero on Valentine's Day. Be the hero. And listen, do you have to have a significant other to give this to? No. No, you can love yourself on Valentine's Day. Take yourself to the Milan Day Spa. Take yourself on just a self-love vacation to the Westin on Jekyll Island, right? There's no one saying that you have to have a significant other to call in for this. So 912-342-7184. Call in and register. That's all you have to do to have a chance to win. 3 and Out coming up next. BJ Bennett, Kevin Thomas, and Ben Troop.